It's a common question to ask which driver is the best in Formula One's history. Today, we're going to narrow it down a bit by selecting our best drivers of the 21st century so far. Welcome to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast. We are powered by the F1 Chronicle. Visit f1chronicle.com for news, reviews, and opinions on all things F1. Hosting today will be me, George Howson. And joining me today are multimedia journalist Ruby Price.
Hello.
Sports journalist Louis Edwards.
Hello.
And sports journalist Mikael Kataja.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. So, just like the worst drivers of the 21st century, we got all of the pundits on the Grid Talk podcast to vote in and select their 10 best drivers for this. And we're going to go through we've amalgamated all the scores and we're going to go through the top 10 today. Starting off with number 10, I think it's appropriate to start with Mikael for this one. Mika Hakkinen, a man that won 2 F1 championships, but in the 90s, but did compete in the 2000s, in 2000 and 2001. Mikael, I imagine he's very fondly remembered in Finland even to this day.
Oh, he is definitely. The thing with why I assume he's on 10th position is the fact that when I was giving my votes, for example, I didn't give him a single vote just because I'm like, well, his performance in 2000 and 2001, especially 2001, I mean, yeah, 5th place in the championship in his last season, doing well, but I mean, I get why he's that low. But yeah, he's fondly remembered here still. Every time he appears somewhere, it's always a little bit of a media event. So, great guy. Wish I would have met him personally so far, but haven't had the luck.
Well, there's plenty of time for that. I'm sure he'll do plenty more media events. He's always in the public eye, Mika Hakkinen. He's always doing something.
Yeah.
But yeah, Louis, I mean, a lot of drivers you think about and you think, right, they retired too soon. Mika Hakkinen definitely retired too soon. I mean, his sabbatical's gone on for 19 years now. I don't think he's going to come back, is he?
Yeah, probably not.
No, I don't think he will. You never know. Robbie Kubica came back. Schumacher came back. Yeah, he definitely retired far too soon. He was I think I put him in my top 10, but I think somewhere like 10th or 9th because he was an absolutely incredible driver in Formula One, and even, those 2 seasons that he did do in 2000 and 2001, yeah, 5th wasn't the best place, but, it's still good. And he was still, after his 2 world championships, he was still competing. There's certain other people that, just give up after 1. But I think Mika is a great driver, and I wish he did continue a bit further in his Formula One career.
Yeah, you go along that, Ruby. I mean, in terms of ability, he's probably higher up this list than some of the other drivers that we've got. But it's just the fact that he only competed in 2 years. His achievements in the 2000s aren't as great as some of the others that we've got.
I mean, Mika Hakkinen was before my time in terms of interest in Formula One. So until I started playing a couple of older Formula One games, I didn't know who he was. Or just he'd make some random cameos during Sky's coverage of Formula One, and I'd be like, oh, who's this guy? But, his name and reputation is probably going to live on forever because of, what he did prior to the 21st century, at least.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think he's probably higher up than some of these drivers, but we do have some excellent drivers coming up. From the past of Formula One to very much the future, Louis, Charles Leclerc. Now he's 9th place in this list, despite only competing in 2 full seasons of Formula One. But he's got an incredible future ahead of him.
Yeah, it's like not many drivers can say that in their after their first season of Formula One, not even completing his first season of Formula One, they get signed by Ferrari. That doesn't happen. Ferrari are very traditional and they like to get proven drivers. So it has taken someone very special like Charles Leclerc to get that seat. And what a season he had last year. I would say he wiped the floor with Vettel for the majority of the season. That's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, beating a 4-time world champion all ends up in your second season and in one of the top teams with all that pressure on him. Ruby, he just absolutely shrugged it off, though, didn't he? I mean, it just doesn't seem phased. He has absolute supreme confidence in himself, and it shows.
I think that's one of the things that's going to define Charles throughout his career and going forward. In his first season with Alfa Romeo, Sauber, I think they were just Alfa Romeo at the time. Yeah, it was clear that we were onto something special with Charles. And obviously, as Louis said, getting signed by Ferrari before the end of that first season, they clearly saw something in him. And, you know, he's got confidence in his abilities, and that's something that we've not seen from someone for a while, I don't think. Not particularly someone as fast as him.
Yeah, I mean, there's another driver that comes to mind that really hit things off straight away in F1. We will get to him eventually. Now, we started out with Mika Hakkinen. Now we're going to a man who is definitely, well, part Finnish anyway, Mikael. Nico Rosberg, 2016 Formula One World Champion, and another guy that arguably retired too soon.
I mean, yeah, he did. I mean, I understand his reasons for retiring after the championship, but it is a shame because I would have wanted to see him maybe change teams and just try for more world championships. But I mean, in my opinion, his position 8th, pretty justified. I mean, his last 3 seasons with Mercedes were phenomenal, even though he was only able to beat Lewis in his last season. And I mean, he was doing well even like before Mercedes became the powerhouse that it is. So, you know, well done to him, and definitely deserves his position on the top 10.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's easy, especially with the press that he got in Britain, Ruby, to kind of dismiss Nico Rosberg, you know, his title being a lucky one. And this bit, he did beat Lewis Hamilton in the same car, albeit a bit lucky. But he also beat Michael Schumacher in the same car. You know, he at some point beat all of his teammates and is a great driver.
I was watching a couple of F1 videos, as I'm sure everyone has been doing over the last couple of weeks in its absence, and that in the 2010 to 2012 seasons, it clearly became apparent that Nico Rosberg was replacing Michael Schumacher as the number 1 in that team, and Michael Schumacher obviously was many times world champion at that point. He, by status and by his legendary status, should have been the team number 1 no matter what. Nico Rosberg just clearly had the talent to go up against Michael in his latter years.
Yeah, and he won. I mean, he won in 2012 in China as well, in a car that really wasn't that good that year, you know. And Singapore, I mean, obviously a very controversial race, but Singapore 2008, he got 2nd place there. He scored points in his first race, 2006 Bahrain. You know, he's a guy that's very easy to dismiss, Louis, but he is a great driver, and he is one of, I think, about 6 world champions in this era from 2000 to 2019.
I have a feeling that Rosberg's career, like people have looked back at Rosberg's career and go, oh wow, he actually was a good driver. Because I think during his time at Mercedes, people were just going, oh yeah, Nico, he's been at Mercedes for ages, and he's just, oh yeah, he's just won the world championship. Oh, and then when he retired, it was like, oh, you know, he's actually a good driver. Maybe he should have stayed on another season. But no, I like Nico, and I think, you know, from what you can say about his decision to retire when he did, you know, he'd reached the top, the ultimate thing that any racing driver wants to do. I mean, if I had to sit through that Abu Dhabi race in his seat, I probably would never want to sit in an F1 car again. Imagine heart attacks would ensue not long after. But, you know, he is a great driver and definitely deserves to be top 10.
Yeah, he deserves to be on there for sure. I think got 20-odd wins as well, which is about the same as Hakkinen and Fangio. Almost as many as Lauda as well, I think. So some great drivers he's in company with there. Moving on from one world champion to another, Jenson Button. He's 7th in our list. And Ruby, I mean, he was just... I love Jenson Button. He was... You know, I got into Formula 1 because, you know, I really liked Lewis Hamilton. I liked him at first. And I didn't really know anything about Button because he was trailing around in the back in his Honda. But when he got that chance in the Brawn in 2009, it's easy to hate the guy that's winning. But I just found it impossible to hate the guy. He's just the best driver.
There's a very similar pattern here, like with me and you. Like Lewis Hamilton got me into Formula 1. And then when Brawn happened, Jenson Button kept me around in Formula 1. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's something about Jenson that's just really likable. You know, he's an all-around driver. Like he's good in the dry, he's good in the wets. He's especially good in the wets. He likes to tout that to being his dad wouldn't buy him wet tires when he was, you know, in his formative years. So he had to learn to drive on slicks in the wet. But, you know, like if you needed a reliable driver in a car that was in the front midfield to the top, Jenson was your man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he drove some absolute stinkers of cars, but he still got results in them. And just the longevity of his career as well, Mikael. I mean, 17 consecutive years, 2000 to 2016. We won't mention the 2017 Monaco race. You know, that's a hell of a stint, that, from him.
It is. It is very honorable. And I also like Jensen because he's one of those like very likable characters in Formula One in the driver. As you said, like you can't really hate him. And I mean, the role that he played for McLaren after becoming world champion, he really became like a trustworthy workhorse in a sense. He was taking the car forward, and even when McLaren's form dipped, like he was still the guy who was like helping with the car and not complaining on the radio, compared to his teammate, whom we'll get to in a few positions. So, like, I have eternal respect for Button for his like longevity and success in Formula One. But it is a shame that he only got that one championship with Braun, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I remember, well, I don't remember at the time because I was only 5 years old, but when he first burst onto the scene in 2000, everybody, I think Gerhard Berger was really singing his praises, saying this guy is going to be the guy to beat Schumacher. You know, that's how highly he was rated. And I think in terms of raw talent, especially in the wet, he definitely showed that. He was something else. He's a very likable guy, Louis. I mean, it's just impossible to hate the guy. Like I said, it's, you know, just a hell of a run that he went on. And that Braun car in 2009, you know, he just drove it to perfection in the first half of the season, just consistently carried it over. And he's still the guy who has the most recent McLaren win in 2012 somehow.
Yeah, he was a remarkable driver. And, well, I was only 8 when he won in the Braun.
Oh,
and
makes me feel old, that man.
And I remember, because I didn't stay up to watch it because it's too early, and you're 8 years old, who gets up it? And my mum I went to my mum, went, who won the race? And she went, oh, Jensen Button. I was like, he's crap. Like, because I was far too young to understand what he was doing in that Honda. And I was like, but from then on, I just thought, you know, he's an absolutely brilliant driver. He's done some remarkable things. I think, like Alonso, it's a bit of a shame that his career ended the way it did in that woeful McLaren. But I think you can't ever knock him for what he achieved and what he's done and how long he went on for.
Yeah, something else. I mean, and as well, on the subject of Alonso, you know, Alonso said that Jensen was the most consistent teammate, the most complete teammate he had during his career. I think that's a little unfair to one of his other teammates, a bit of spite in there, perhaps. But that being said, you know, Jensen Button is the only man to outscore Lewis Hamilton over a number of seasons. 3 seasons they were teammates at McLaren, and he outscored him during those overall. Yeah, moving on, another world champion. Got a few of these, funnily enough. Kimi Räikkönen. Now, a man that's not exactly famed for having much of an outspoken personality, Mikael. He's an absolute quote machine, even when he's not at the front of the grid. It's just, you know, he's the guy you just want to tune in to listen to, even if his interview's 30 seconds. He offers more in that 30 seconds than some people do in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to like the most enjoyable characters to watch in Formula One, Kimi is definitely one of up there. Yeah, just a pure joy to listen to and everything. So, yeah, I'm happy that he's as high up as he is on the list. And actually, before we started recording, I went quickly and checked his positions, and like there are a lot of gems here. And still, his return to Ferrari that season when he finished 12th, that's his worst season in his career position wise, tied with last year with Alfa Romeo. But can we count that? That I don't know. But yeah, it's a shame that he didn't get more than one world championship. And you know, we've heard the talks from like engineers that are close to him and everything that he could have been so great if he just had been more persistent or more working more towards success, I think, in Formula One. So yeah, but again, one of the greatest characters of the 21st century, if not most of Formula One. So
Future Prime Minister of Finland potentially as well.
Probably, yeah. wouldn't surprise me for a bit.
Oh, you know, I just won the election. You know, it's not a big deal. I just won by landslide. You know, I was hoping for more. Um, but yeah, no, we do focus on his character, Ruby. But at the end of the day, he was a blisteringly quick driver, and up until even 2018, he was still pulling out amazing results. Battling with Hamilton at Italy for the win there. He won at USA. I think his first win in 5 years in 2018, and he still did good results in that Alfa Romeo at the age of 40. That's commendable in itself. Let alone not even counting his world championship.
Yeah, like one of the things that, I think we can all agree on is that Kimi Räikkönen is quick. He won in almost every single car, like it seems that he was driving in, he also won in that Lotus in 2013, which Roman Grosjean somehow got on the podium on as well, but that's another matter. Like, still winning when everyone had sort of written him off as Ferrari's fall guy for Vettel in the US 2018. Kimi's a quick guy, and I'm just sort of waiting on the time when he'll randomly appear on the podium in an Alfa Romeo.
I think he got fourth at Brazil last year, I want to say. So he was close. He was one place off.
So close.
Oh, God. If only. He just wouldn't care either. He'd just be there, just waving, just like, whatever. Same as the other 100 odd. But Louis, I mean, he's a world champion, but you could argue that he should have, and perhaps definitely could have won more. 2003, he was in it until the final race. 2005, that McLaren had a bit more reliability. If they bloody pit him at Nürburgring, he could have had more. But obviously he won in 2007. He's an extremely accomplished driver, and I think other than Schumacher, he's got the most fastest laps in the history of F1.
He's a guy that he has infinite respect on his name in Formula One. And that will never go away because regardless of what he does, even if we do get a season this year, he could not score a single point, but no one will care because it's Kimi Räikkönen and he is just that guy. And yeah, it's a shame that did he have how many races this season did there need to be for him to beat Barrichello's start record?
Oh,
I can't remember, but it's not that much. It's not that many.
I'm kind of hoping that we do have the amount of races this season that he can at least finish with that if this is going to be his final season. Because it'd be a bit of a shame that he doesn't get to get that record because every race has been cancelled.
Oh no, it'd be such a shame, wouldn't it? I know Barrichello's on 326. That's how much of a nerd I am. I don't know how many Kimi Räikkönen's on. I'll find out though. But we'll move on.
No, 312 actually.
Oh, if you've got that, that's a. Oh, he's got three.
No, I have the fact sheet open here. That's
okay.
It didn't come from my head. No,
I'm gonna say if you called that. So if you're doing it on starts, he needs to get 15 to beat it. So it's gonna be tight. You'll have to do another year then. It's decided.
He'll come back in 2 years and do it.
Oh God. Well, Schumacher was still racing like 43, 44. It's possible.
Yeah, could still do it.
Not probable though. Let's be honest here. I think when he retires, he's just going to call it a day, isn't he? He's not going to come back.
It's just a hobby for him.
It pretty much is, isn't it? Let's be honest here. Just messes with all the journalists. I'm sure he gets a real kick out of it. But yeah, so into the top 5 we go, and a guy that is supremely talented, but I am a little surprised to see him this high just because he's relatively new in the sport. Max Verstappen. Now, at just 22 years old, Ruby, he's already proven himself to be one of the fastest raw talents in the sport. And we all say if you give him a car to win the championship, he'll absolutely slaughter the competition. That's how good he is.
I mean, he stepped into Formula One in that Toro Rosso, instantly impressed Red Bull, and was in the Red Bull main car within the next season. I mentioned it with Charles earlier. He's appeared, and obviously we were referring to Max Verstappen being the other one. Yeah, it's just if you give him an inch, he'll take a mile. It's a shame that he's not been in the car to challenge for the title so far. But if he's in one in the future, he's going to be a Formula One world champion and probably a multi-champion winning driver as well.
Yeah, I remember just a year after his debut, he won on debut for Red Bull coming in mid-season. That's extremely impressive in itself. And at just, 18 years old? Jeez, man, I hadn't even finished my A-levels then. What the hell? But yeah, just an unbelievable talent, Mikael, and he's still only 22 years old. He's got 6 or 7 F1 wins under his belt, and some of those performances, Brazil 2016, that recovery to come back for third, Germany last year to avoid all that chaos was nearly faultless. I think he spun once, but that race was ridiculous. Everybody spun in that race. And Austria as well to just muscle out Leclerc. He does not give, like Ruby says, you give him an inch, he takes a mile. You just do not want to mess with this guy.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, because he's so young, if he wants to, he can just go off and given the right car, probably break most of the records. No matter how far Hamilton will go and try and beat Schumacher's 7 championships. I mean, Max is gonna have the chance to break that. I mean, of course, Leclerc is the one standing in his way there, but just what you were saying about the Toro Rosso, I mean, also scoring points in majority of his races there, just such raw talent like Leclerc. It's going to be interesting for the next 5 years at least of what Red Bull can do with him if he stays.
Yeah, that's the big if. Like, he is almost bigger than the team at this point. That's his team. That's like, you don't. Alexander Albon's got a hell of a job on his hands next year to try and match Verstappen. Yeah. But I just think though that pretty much anybody on the grid, bar Hamilton and probably Leclerc at this point in time, would really, really struggle to beat him. Louis, it's like I say, he's just a guy you don't want to mess with. He is a formidable talent, and when he has the chance to get a win in a car, he will just do anything to get it.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again. His just spectacular performances. People definitely had their doubts about him with his sort of aggressive nature, but after the Chinese Grand Prix of 2018, he never put really a foot wrong, and he's just done some incredible races, won some more races, and just he is slowly but surely he's got to get a championship, and it's baffling to me that it's just not quite there yet. It's like he should have won. It feels like he should have won 2 by now and should be storming off, but hopefully Red Bull can give him the car to win, because I think we would all want to see Max. It'd be a shame if he didn't.
Yeah, at some point he's going to get it. After maybe Hamilton retires, he goes to Mercedes, or maybe Red Bull get the best car on the grid. There's a number of ways he can do it. He's so young. There's so much potential for him, and obviously he's got the Orange Army cheering him on around the world as well, which I'm sure helps. The Dutch fans are just something else. I'm so devastated that Dutch GP is not happening until at least the summertime. It'd be a hell of an event whenever it happens. But yeah, moving on, a 4-time world champion in 4th place, Sebastian Vettel. Now, I'm going to start with Ruby, just because you put Vettel very low down on your list, and I just want to know why that is. Is it because of his performances in recent seasons showing him up a bit, would you say?
Well, I'm just going to start off by saying you don't win 4 world champions on the trot without being a good driver, just to put that out there. But yeah, I just personally don't rate Sebastian Vettel. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. I just think the more recent performances do show him up, and he's got a habit of spinning.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, he got beaten by Ricciardo at Red Bull. He's got beaten at Ferrari by Leclerc so far. Even Kimi Räikkönen, some of his seasons, he got pretty close. I think 2016, got very close to beating him in the World Championship that year. I mean, but when you stand on Vettel, Mikael, because he's an interesting one. He just looked absolutely unstoppable at Red Bull, and then the regulations changed, and he's aside from 2015, he's still challenged for the championship. He's been the closest challenger to Lewis Hamilton in recent seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's difficult to say because his stint at Ferrari hasn't been what everyone hoped for, and yeah, part of it is due to the car just letting him down, but it's also the fact that he hasn't been, I think we can all agree that the feeling there is when you see Leclerc driving the Ferrari compared to Vettel, you kind of you don't expect that much from Vettel anymore. At this point, we're also just whenever he spins, we're just it's Vettel again. And you don't have that excitement that you have when you have the cockpit camera of Leclerc. You don't have that same feeling with Vettel. I mean, at least I don't. But I feel that the relationship he had with Red Bull when he was winning the championship was such symbiotic, and the way the team and he grew together in a way to fill those shoes of becoming a 4-time in a row world champion, that I don't know, maybe there is just something that isn't clicking with him, with either in his last season with Red Bull or with Ferrari at all now. And I mean, the fact that Leclerc is there is just going to make it harder.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. It's like, what would you say he should do, Louis? Should he stay at Ferrari? Should he move on? Should he take some time out? Like, whatever he's no, I'm serious. Like, it's all different options for him. I mean, it's like it does seem like, I mean, obviously everybody's getting a bit of time off right now anyway. He needs to kind of change his approach, maybe go back to whatever he did at Red Bull. It's all the pressure of Ferrari, all the pressure of being, emulating Michael Schumacher. That's what that's what he wants to do. That's his hero. I think all that pressure has just come to a head, and this young kid's coming in Leclerc, and it's just like he's beat him in his first season. It must be soul destroying for him. Can he regain his former glory, would you say?
I think they need to give him an older teammate, because it seems to be the pattern of give him a younger teammate, and he completely cripples him. We saw it in 2014 with Ricciardo, and we've seen it last season with Leclerc. It just completely seems to fall off the cliff. It's a shame, because he is still a remarkable driver, and we still see essences of that. So I am one of those people who reckons he probably should leave Ferrari, because I don't think I think he needs something new now. I think, he came up through the Red Bull system, then went to find something at Ferrari to win a world championship at Ferrari. And I don't think he'll do that, because in the same car, Leclerc is better. So I don't think he'll get that chance. So he needs to go somewhere else, find something new, just to maybe rejuvenate him a little bit, new challenges.
Yeah, I mean, the older teammate thing's a hard thing to get. There's not that many drivers left on the grid that are older than him. I think it's only really Hamilton and Raikkonen, so Vettel to Alfa Romeo, maybe? I don't know. I can't really see it myself, I'll be honest.
And back Alonso.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, can you imagine the seats? But yeah, so we're just about to get onto our podium. I'm going to ask each of you if you have any honourable mentions, the guys that didn't quite make the list, because I've said the list to you guys before. Guys that didn't quite make the list that you think, I really like that person, they should have been on there, they were almost there. Who would you say, Ruby? Who's your honourable mention for? I'm
going to honourable mention Daniel Ricciardo, just purely based on the fact that, similar with my reasons of including Button, he was a good all-rounder. If you needed someone to be making daring late breaks, Dan was your man. I think it's an absolute waste of talent seeing him driving at Renault, not winning races, not, even appearing on podiums. Yeah, just Daniel Ricciardo. He's my honourable mention.
So it's the honey badger for Ruby. Mikael, who are you saying?
I would say Rubens. I mean, Barrichello as Michael's right-hand man, basically, during his heyday. And then after that, still going on, also supporting Jensen at Braun in his championship-winning year. Again, going back to the character point, I mean, he's another driver who you can't really hate. Yeah. When he was really driving, it was a joy to just listen to and see him drive. So, yeah, I would say an honorable mention to him. Not the fastest driver, but definitely one of the most supportive driver. So perfect for Vettel, I would say. I think he should come back.
There was rumours about him. Well, no, they confirmed it actually. Just towards the end of 2014, he could have made I think 3-race comeback with Caterham, but they folded. They were that desperate for money, they were going to get Rubens Barrichello, but didn't quite happen.
Would have been awful.
It would have been. So, it was painful enough watching him in the Williams in 2011. But yeah, no, Rubens Barrichello, the ultimate number 2. Such an underrated driver as well. Some incredible performances putting in the Ferrari, and Jordan as well when he first started his career out. Some brilliant performances in there. Louis, who would you say? Who's your honourable mention?
So I'm looking through my list that I submitted, and it's the top 10 of what we've done. So, I mean, you didn't include Maldonado, who I put 2 places above everyone else.
He's still, but even with 12 points, he wouldn't have made the top 10. I'm afraid he would have just been between Daniel Ricciardo and Robert Kubica, so didn't quite make it, man. I'm sorry.
No. That's a shame. I don't know. I'd probably put Nico Hulkenberg because he was a brilliant driver, so consistent, just couldn't get into the podium. He got pole positions, but he couldn't get on the podium. It's just it's the one biggest letdown. But he's a brilliant driver, and yeah, he'd be my number.
God, when I think of Hulkenberg, I think of Teo Farby from the 80s. I think he got 3 pole positions, but he didn't lead a single lap. That's the kind of look that he had. But I would love to see him back. The Hulk is a hell of a driver. Some drivers on the current grid that are nowhere near as good as him. He definitely deserves a seat above some of those guys. My honourable mention him just before there, Robert Kubica, unbelievable talent. I think Hamilton and Rosberg both said that he was the guy they feared in the junior categories. If you look where he came from as well, there's a really good documentary on YouTube. It's fan made, like coming from Poland and relatively poor background, to make it all the way to the top and then have his career effectively cut short by that horrible accident. It's tragic. It really is what could have been. He could have won the title in 2008 if BMW kept developing the car, but they stopped it for 2009, and then the car was rubbish that year. So unlucky driver, like quite a few we mentioned as well. In terms of raw talent, I think he's almost there in the top 10 for me of this list. But yeah, back to the podium, and it's just like the 2006 World Championship. We've got Alonso v Schumacher for this second spot, and it's Schumacher who loses out in this one as well. But the most successful man in the history of Formula One, Rui, but I think, again, and one that you not put as high as a lot of us. Again, I think I know what you're going to say, but care to explain?
Again, it's just more, being before my time, really. Again, there's no knocking Michael Schumacher's talent, the amount of championships he won. You don't win that without, being a fantastic driver, especially when you look at some of the teams that he did, drive for and stuff. But I think it's purely just the latter years, again, letting people down. I'm not so sure as to whether Michael should have returned to the sport to just sort of, linger around in what Mercedes achieved.
Yeah, he had the talent. He got pole 2012 Monaco. He had the talent, but I don't think the car was there because Rosberg also didn't do much in that car. He got a few podiums. He got one win, but relative to what he did after when Mercedes were good,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people underestimate how good Schumacher was when he came back. Personally, and plus he had 3 years out of the sport and he was in his 40s. Yeah, you could argue he shouldn't have come back, but earlier in his career, Mikael, he was rewriting the record books. He was just unstoppable in that Ferrari, like Hamilton is now in the Mercedes. 5 championships on the bounce. Nobody could touch him during that time.
Yeah, I would say even more dominating than Hamilton. I mean, 2002, every race on podium. That's something that we just don't see from, any old driver. The pure speed and also the tactics that they played with Ferrari at the time. I mean, just, pure showing off at that point almost of his talent. I mean, he's come back to Mercedes again. Who would have expected him to be like fighting for a championship in a returning Mercedes to the sport? Not really. I mean, he did well to score that one podium in 2012. But I mean, it's also a testament to his like geniusness. I think the way that Mercedes has started performing after a few years after he left. I mean, a lot of people say, I think Toto Wolff has said as well, that it's the success that Mercedes have had in the latter 2010s. I mean, a lot of it was built with Michael's expertise and the way he developed the team after coming back. So again, greatest driver in Formula One and deserves to be in the top 3.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, interestingly though, Louis, you were the only person to put Michael Schumacher as number 1 out of everybody. There's a very common theme though for who is number 1. We will get to that person. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I think he suffers a little bit, his reputation, because of the dirty tactics, like at Monaco. I think 2005, 2006, I want to say. Because of the things that happened in the 90s as well with Hill. I think his reputation does suffer because of that. And also because the Ferraris were so bloody good at that time. But it's so rare to see somebody win the championship without the best car. the level which he dominated Formula One during that time is a very firm, like one of the best ever, maybe the best ever.
Yeah, he was an absolutely incredible driver. Won the first 4 championships of the 21st century. You can't ever knock that of what he achieved and what he did. I still put him as number 1 just because, even through his sort of dirty tactics, it's just the driver he was. And, he took it to that win by, any means necessary. But he was also a very quick driver. And I don't know, it's a hard question to think. I sort of, in my reasoning, I was like, if Hamilton was driving back in, the early 2000s, like turn of the millennium, would Hamilton beat Schumacher? I don't know, because I imagine Schumacher's mind games might have been a bit better than anyone that Hamilton's ever come across. He was a very clever guy, and he knew what he was doing. So, yeah, for me, I was still Schumacher number 1, but third is not too bad.
Yeah, he's definitely up there. I mean, most championships, most wins, most podiums, most fastest laps. He used to have the most poles before someone broke that record. But he has the records for the time being, while ever this virus epidemic's going on. So he's firmly on this, near the top of this list. But yeah, moving on. Second place, runner-up, Fernando Alonso. And Ruby, a guy that won 2 world championships, not as many as some of the others around him, but just the raw talent of this guy. I think in terms of raw talent, he might well be top of this list, but he just made the wrong moves at the wrong times. He made enemies of people in his team, and he really suffered for that later in his career.
I feel like he could very much have won titles with McLaren, he could have won with Ferrari. Probably not the second stage at Renault, and was definitely not going to win anything with McLaren in the second time round. But yeah, like if he just sort of maybe stuck around with teams a little bit longer, he could have, been a 3-time world champion, 4-time world champion. Hamilton might not have won that championship in 2008 if Fernando Alonso had still been in McLaren in 2008.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like I said, it's wrong place, wrong time. If he didn't make an enemy of Lewis Hamilton at McLaren, he could have stayed there and he could have won in 2008. If he didn't annoy the Tifosi and stuff in Ferrari, didn't complain about it so much, he could have won there 2015. You never know. It's a bit of a stretch, but it's possible. That's the thing about him, Mikael. As a person, he's very divisive, but as a driver, just the consistency. That 2005 and 2005 and 6 championships, just the amount of podiums he got, not necessarily the wins, but the podiums. He was always there or thereabouts, and it showed in the end.
Yeah, I mean, again, the only driver who, on a championship level, beat Michael Schumacher in the 2000s. So it is a testament to his talent and everything. But yeah, it's just the fact of, in a way, I see him kind of being like Max Verstappen, the way that but even worse in a sense that his character really takes over the team and makes it into a more toxic environment. I mean, we'll see it when Albon grows to become a potentially race-winning driver, whether Max is going to poison the atmosphere there as well. But when it comes to Fernando, I mean, again, one of the legends of the sport, partly due to his success with Renault and other teams, and then partly due to the just horrendous stint with McLaren. So this divisive pick, for me, I can't remember where I put him. Don't think near the top 3, but I mean, I get why he's there.
You put him third, actually, but yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, no, I get that. He's, I put him third as well. I think he's a bit below Schumacher and the guy we're about to talk about in terms of that. But just because as a driver, you're an employee of a team, Louis, and you have to make a harmonious atmosphere. You have to be successful. That's what Schumacher was so good at. Yeah, he was a bit dictatorial in terms of he was the guy, but that's what Ferrari needed to be successful. And Alonso, he just didn't have that. He made it all about him, but he did it in a way that annoyed other drivers. It annoyed Ron Dennis. It annoyed Lewis Hamilton. It annoyed Dominicali. He just made enemies of people and the wrong people to make enemies of, and it just made a disharmonious atmosphere in the teams.
Yeah, he was not afraid of, speaking his mind and telling me just like that whole sort of GP2 engine. He knew that
Oh,
was going to be broadcasted. He knew
in
that it
Japan as
was,
well.
yeah, in Japan, slagging off the Honda engine. He knew what he was doing. And, I'm such a fanboy of Alonso. I mean, like you were all talking that it's like Hamilton who got you into Formula One. For me, it was Alonso. Like the first race I ever watched that I can remember is the 2006 Monaco Grand Prix, because that Renault is a stunning car. It was the one that sort of gripped me when I was little, and Fernando was the one who was winning in it. And I was so gutted that he didn't win it in 2007, gutted that he didn't win it in 2010, in 2012. It was just heartbreaking. And he sort of deserves so much more, but he definitely created his own problems and was definitely the reason why his career didn't go the way it really should have.
And it shows as well, even now with McLaren are doing a lot better without him as a driver. That's not a coincidence, I'll be honest. But yeah, the moment you've all been waiting for, everybody except for Louis, no offense, Louis, put this guy as their number one. Clear top. The one and only Lewis Hamilton. Of course it was going to be Lewis Hamilton. 6 world championships, all in the 2000s. Ruby, just... It doesn't. The only thing that stopped him is a global pandemic. That's the only thing that seems to stop him in this V6 era. He's just absolutely just on another level, isn't he? But it's hot. It's easy to forget that there was a time when it kind of seemed like, oh, this career might be fizzling out a little bit. But he's absolutely just took the sport. So he's just gone to another level, really, hasn't he?
Absolutely. I think a couple of months ago, it was Louis or Mikael that said that Lewis Hamilton has won a race in every single, era of Formula One. He's raced in every single year he's raced in. Can't remember which one of them it was that said it, but, Lewis Hamilton is, in my opinion, potentially the greatest of all time, just because, he's got that consistency on his day. He cannot be beaten. He's been plagued by unreliability a lot. I think not just like 2016, which is the one that people always mention, but 2012 McLaren clearly had one of the best cars on the grid when it worked. That could have been another championship winning year, and we would be talking about the driver with the most championships, but then potentially wouldn't have left McLaren. So maybe not. Yeah, I just think it would be ironic if this season is the season that Lewis Hamilton doesn't win the championship to take over the records.
Yeah, it could well have been the season. I think he's going to struggle to beat some of the records, but he's up there. He's almost there in terms of wins. He's very nearly got the podium record. He's already got the pole record. He can match the championship record this year. I think he's some way off on fastest lap. Let's be honest, fastest lap's not the biggest deal. Not as important as podiums and wins. But yeah, and you mentioned, Ruby, about him struggling with reliability as well. 2007, obviously everybody remembers China where he beached it. That was his own fault. But the team kept him out quite a bit of time with that. That didn't help. And also he had the mechanical failure in Brazil that dropped him down the grid. So could potentially be talking about an 8-time world champion in terms of that. Yeah, the ifs and buts, but he definitely has 6 world championships. And Mikael, I think in a way it seems almost inevitable that he's going to break all Schumacher's records one day.
Yeah, I mean, over a decade in the sport, always in the top 5 in championships. I mean, as Ruby said, yeah, always, every season having won at least one race. I think that was me. I have a habit of keeping the stats windows open next to the recording, but yeah, just incredibly talented driver. And we talked about with Alonso, it's many changes of teams just at the wrong time every time. And with Hamilton, it's that one change, and that was at the right time to kind of become the greatest of all time. Because a lot of people, were looking at this change from McLaren to Mercedes in 2013 and being like, is this really the right step? I mean, the team had been okay with Rosberg and Schumacher, but it's just... And then after they started hitting it off, and the way he was able to just also take control over the team with Nico Rosberg driving the second car. Yeah, 2016, there are debates. Unlucky, yes. Rosberg also kind of upping his level. Could have been a champion that year as well, but overall, I mean, he's just been dominating basically every year. Every time he's in the car, you can expect something from him. So we'll see how long he keeps going. That's the only thing that's going to stop him from the records, apart from the pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, even in 2016, I think he had over 10 wins that year. Even though he didn't win the championship. It's just ridiculous. That's half the races.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And that's a bad year. That's underperformance.
Puts it into perspective.
I know. That's the standard he's set recently. It's until the last few years or so, I generally was a firm like Senna is the best ever. I didn't think I'd ever change my opinion on that. Not in a long time. But I'm finding it really hard to disagree because even Senna did dirty tactics. He took Prost off several times. Even Schumacher, he did the dirty tactics, taking Hill off with a Monaco parking. Lewis Hamilton, you don't get any of that. Yeah, there's been some whingy moments, but he's been in the sport for 13 years now. He's going to have the odd bad moment. Everybody's human. But yeah, Louis, just try and sum up Hamilton. I mean, it's just unbelievable what he's managed to do. Like 5 of the last 6 years, he's won the championship. And like I said, even in that year where he didn't win it, he got 10 wins. He was so close to winning it. He's just formidable, and he's made this era a dynasty for him. And I think, like Sam said, even if he wins, well, it's 2022 now, but if he wins the championship 2022 or after, he'll have won it in 4 different generations of car, which nobody else has done. And I think that'll just make people think, wow, what a driver, what a talent. He wins in everything.
Yeah, I'm going to put him third. Yeah, Lewis is a great driver. I could go on and on and on. Yeah, he's done this, done that, and you all 3 have covered it a lot. But Lewis, my only thing that I have it is like Schumacher was king in Formula One. He won and he won and he won and he won, and he was king. And then along came Alonso and knocked him down 2 years in a row. Now that takes a very special driver to end what was so dominant for Michael Schumacher. I would say that's the only reason why I have those 2 sort of higher than Hamilton, is because Hamilton, his championship in 2008, well, his season in 2007, his championship winning in 2008 were very impressive. But he didn't have to, knock down someone who'd been so dominant to win them. He had a very good car. And then also with his Mercedes, that Mercedes is in 2014, 2015, 2016 was absolutely untouchable. And in those seasons, we saw Lewis being very dominant, but we also saw that, he's just better than Nico Rosberg overall, which he is. And 2017, it proved that he was better than Vettel. And then and we sort of kept going like that. And that's the only reason why I didn't put him top. It's because he's not had that king, that untouchable king that he's had to completely, knock off his block to be able to win. That's all I'm saying. Because I might upset a few people about this.
No, I get you. I get where you're coming from with that. Because even in 2007, Alonso, he was king, like you said, but he was at McLaren. He was at a new team for him. So I do get that. But I also think just that was his first season as well. And he matched Alonso in points. It took Alonso 4 years to win his first championship. It took Schumacher also 4 years to win his first championship. Hamilton won it in 2. And he almost won it in his first. But then again, Jacques Villeneuve also nearly won his first championship in his first year and won in his second. So it's an interesting debate. You can tell all these stats all you want, but I just think when he retires in about 5 years, maybe, who knows, he'll be top of the tree in pretty much every regard in terms of the stats. And that's the thing that Schumacher had. And it's just his pole race. He might end up having 100 poles by the end of it. That it just doesn't even bear thinking about. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's 1 lap speed. But, this is a debate we could have for a very, very long time, even longer than we already have done. We can all agree that all these drivers are very deserving of their places on this list. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. Who's your top 3? Who's your top 10? Who's your favourite? Who do you think we've left out that we've overlooked? You know, people who just missed out on the list: Juan Pablo Montoya, Daniel Ricciardo, Robert Kubica, Felipe Massa, and Dev with an absolute left field suggestion of Nick Heidfeld. I'm not sure that was totally serious, but there you go. But yeah, let us know who your top 10 are. Tweet us at F1 Chronicle on Twitter, and also get in the comments section on our other services as well. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Music, Google Podcasts. We are on all of those as F1 Grid Talk. We're also on Omni Studio and Pocket Casts, also as F1 Grid Talk. We've got a Reddit, new F1 podcast looking for feedback. We've also got a subreddit for the F1 Grid Talk 2. And we have a Patreon if you want to donate to the show, to donate for better lights, better microphones, that good stuff as well. Just search Formula One Grid Talk on Patreon for that. And yes, thank you very much to you guys for being on here and giving your opinions. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening as well. Be sure to follow, subscribe, like, all that good stuff on our multiple different services. We're going to try and keep the content coming as regularly as we can, despite there not being any Formula One to talk about. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.